All right, welcome back. This next story is about both time and money because we all know time is money. But to gauge how precious time really is, the financial planning firm Empower, they asked 2,200 adults between the dates of March 11th and March 14th about how much money they thought an hour of their time was worth. On average, Americans value their time at $240 an hour. And based on a standard 40-hour work week, that puts their perceived value at just under $500,000 a year, or nearly 8 times higher than the average U.S. salary of just over $59,000. So it's official. Now, we all think we're more valuable than we really are. How much value you put on your time really depends on your age, because the data showed that millennials, born from 1981 to 1996, placed the highest value on their time, saying an hour was worth $328, with 25% of them pegging that at more than $500 an hour, the highest percentage of any generation. Only 6% of boomers priced their time at $500 an hour, and Gen Z from 1997 to 2012 said an hour of their time would cost $266. See, as you get older, it's funny, it goes down, right? Gen X, born from 1965 to 1980, they said their time was worth $216 an hour. So boomers from 1946 to 1964 said an hour of their time was worth just $137. So it's interesting to note the younger folks feel like they're worth more per hour, and they say it's because of adverse economic events. Millennials value their time more because their sense of lost time, like the 2008 financial crisis when many entered the workforce, or the volatility later created by the pandemic. Record high levels of student debt and some of the highest inflation and mortgage rates in decades, which millennials say has kept them from buying homes, well, that's also rattled them, Empower said. So time is so precious that 26% of Americans said they'd take a 15% pay cut for more free time. Well, we're the most, millennials, we're the most willing to do that too, said Empower. So my next guest, well, she manages a lot of people from a lot of different ages and generations. So she's at the coalface of this issue. Please welcome into the show, Rebecca Walser. Rebecca, interesting how the younger folks thought they were worth way more than the older folks. And I said as an aside in the studio when I was looking at this, it's clearly, if you had any idea about business, you know that a good lawyer is $500 an hour. So you must, if you think you're worth $500 an hour, you're better than a good lawyer. And I don't know, if people really knew business practices, they probably wouldn't have put their number so high.
Well, it's so interesting, Scott, to see that it's the exact reverse order, with the exception of Gen Z, which comes in after the millennials. It's the exact reverse order of birth order, right? So it's boomers, then Gen X, my generation, then obviously Gen Z comes before millennials. But what I'm noticing here is that inflation has really gotten the best of these newer generations. But to your point, Scott, California, their fast food industry is collapsing as we speak, as the minimum wage hitting $20 an hour is impacting that industry and saying we cannot afford, with what we're selling and the higher cost of ingredients and the higher cost of food, we can't afford to pay people $20 an hour. So we're closing our actual fast food establishments in California. So if the $20 minimum wage is going to cause an industry to go under in a state, then I think that people need to really assess what their per hour price is. Because to your point, Scott, people are not even high-level, neurosurgeons, brain surgeons, lawyers, doctors, and yet this is the kind of value they're putting on their time. So literally, if you were to say, hey, pay me, or I will take a pay cut for 15% more of my time back, those numbers don't jive with what they're putting their per hour, rate at. So millennials are obviously the most displaced and most affected by economic adverse events and just pure inflation. They just see that, gosh, I think that maybe I'm worth $50 an hour, but I have to really increase that now because I know that the mortgage rates have gone up. I know car rates have gone up. Insurance has gone up. Gas has gone up. Food has gone up. And so you're getting these outrageous numbers we've never seen before of what their time is worth per hour. And it tells us something, that something is fundamentally broken. We really need to go back to the drawing board and really especially look at the college equation, and does it make sense for the amount that these people are getting in jobs when they come out on the other end?
Yeah, because the colleges have no problem putting up their prices, and the government's got no problem lending the kids the money, but they have a huge problem paying it back. Now, obviously, we've broken precedent with a president that is willing to give it all back to you anyway. So maybe that's what everybody should be doing in the, going forward. Who knows? I mean, if somebody told you, Rebecca, that you can open up a business and the government's going to guarantee a credit card for anybody that wants to buy from your business, what are you going to do to your prices?
Yeah, raise my prices because I'm going to have a lot more demand.
Right, right. So you've got a guarantor of last resort. Anyway, so I thought it was interesting. So why I did like this story is you're exactly right. If you really think, number one, I can just hear my father, he's deceased, but I can hear him saying, all right, if you think you're worth $200 an hour, go find me that job then, because it ain't going to happen, right? And number two,
exactly.
How about this? Start somewhere and move up the ladder. No one's going to walk out at anything for $200 an hour or $100 an hour. You have to start somewhere. Start at 15, start at 20. Don't make those careers, because they're not supposed to be careers, and move yourself up that ladder, because that's how you're going to get there. Nobody walks out of school the best paid doctor, lawyer, whatever.
Just the disconnect, Scott, that we have of this new mentality, and I really thought it was more Gen Z, but maybe it's millennials too, where you got a trophy for just showing up and you think you should be rewarded for just being who you are and being present. And that's just not the reality that you and I grew up in, that the boomers, the greatest generation before them, grew up in, which was you have to make your way in this world. You have to establish your worth. Right. And when you do, maybe you are worth $500. Maybe you're worth $1,000. But until you show us that you are, you can't just arbitrarily put that value on it. And the fact, like I said, that California has an entire industry that is being gutted for a $20 minimum wage goes to show us that the government cannot set the wages. It's the fair market, the free market, that will always decide what people are truly worth.
That's right. Don't screw with the free market. Let it happen. All right. Thank you very much, Rebecca Walser, coming to us from Tampa, Florida. I'm glad you had a great time in Hawaii. Thank you very much for being on the show.